So welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. We are so glad you are here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We've got a really great one today.
We do. And to kick things off, I want you to think about this old piece of advice. You've probably seen it on like a bumper sticker or a coffee mug or something. It goes, use your smile to change the world, but don't let the world change your smile.
Oh, yeah. The classic cross-stitched pillow advice.
Exactly. And, I mean, it sounds sweet, right? It paints this picture of you just walking out your front door, shining your inner light, and somehow remaining completely untouched by the harshness of reality.
Right. Which is, a nice thought, but completely divorced from reality.
Totally. Because if you're listening to this and you're trying to, say, build a career or figure out your personal faith or just establish who you are in the world, you know that the exact second you engage with the world, it pushes back.
Hard.
Yeah. Really hard. It rejects you. It ignores you. And it can be, frankly, profoundly cruel.
Mm-hmm. Which makes holding on to that metaphorical smile, that core enthusiasm or spark, incredibly difficult to do.
So that's our mission today. We are looking at a really fascinating essay titled Day85essay.docs, which actually tries to solve this exact human problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it pulls from like screenwriting, biochemistry, history, philosophy.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does.
Yeah.
But the main takeaway, and okay, let's unpack the central thesis, is that protecting your smile or your soul isn't a matter of willpower.
Right. Because willpower runs out. It's finite.
Exactly. So if willpower isn't the armor that protects us, what is?
Mm.
And the essay argues that it all comes down to a word that makes highly ambitious, creative people want to run for the hills.
Structure.
Structure. It just sounds so rigid.
It does. It sounds like a cage. But to understand why it's actually freedom, the essay starts with this brutal real-life story about the author Steven Pressfield.
Oh, this story is intense.
It is. So imagine you move to Los Angeles, and you are starving for 5 grueling years.
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
And you lock yourself in a room, pouring your absolute soul into writing 9 consecutive screenplays on speculation.
Which is, what, like 6 months of agonizing labor for each script?
Roughly, yeah. So you finish the 9th one, you send it out, and the result is exactly the same as the first 8.
Absolute silence.
Nothing. You fail to sell a single one. So by every societal metric, you are a complete and total failure.
Right. You've wasted half a decade.
But the essay argues that this stretch of rejection wasn't a failure at all. Pressfield wasn't just bashing his head against a wall, he was getting an education.
Because he was learning the structure.
Exactly. Through all that painful repetition, he was absorbing the classic 3-act structure of storytelling.
Like the hook, the build, and the payoff.
Precisely. He was learning that, pages 1 through 25 have a very specific psychological job to do for the audience. They establish the rules of the world.
Right.
And then pages 75 to 85 escalate the tension to a breaking point, leading to the finish. He was internalizing a form.
But what I love is how he initially reacted to this. The text actually quotes him, and it's so relatable. He says, what formulaic bullshit? I'm not going to be a slave to that.
Which is how everyone reacts.
Yeah, because, I mean, doesn't structure kill creativity? If you're an artist or an innovator listening to this, aren't rules just boundaries designed for lesser minds?
That's the ego talking.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like a jazz musician. If you want to get up on stage and improvise and pour pure emotion into a saxophone, the last thing you want to be thinking about is your boring, rigid scales.
Okay, but take that analogy a step further. What actually happens when a musician gets on stage and tries to improvise without having those scales wired into their muscle memory?
It sounds terrible.
Right. It doesn't sound like raw emotion. It sounds like noise.
Okay.
The audience just disconnects.
Oh, that makes sense.
The essay brings in Aristotle here, long before Hollywood even existed. And Aristotle famously argued that through discipline comes freedom.
Through discipline comes freedom.
Yeah. What Pressfield realized, and what Aristotle knew centuries ago, is that an ego-refusing form doesn't make you original. It just prevents you from making any real progress.
Because what looks like a cage is actually a skeleton.
That is the perfect way to look at it. If you completely ignore the 3-act structure, your screenplay isn't some misunderstood masterpiece, it's just unreadable.
Because the human brain needs that pacing.
Exactly. It needs that pacing to process emotional stakes. So, structure isn't the enemy of your smile. It's the skeleton that keeps your ambition from collapsing under its own weight when the world applies pressure.
It holds you upright when your motivation just totally evaporates.
Precisely.
Okay, so if we accept that we need this skeleton to stand up against the gravity of the world, the next logical hurdle for you listening is, how do we find the unique insights to build upon that skeleton? I mean, if everyone is using the same structure, how do you actually innovate?
Well, you have to do something that violates almost every biological instinct you have.
Okay.
You have to actively look for what isn't there.
Here's where it gets really interesting, folks, because the essay introduces a concept from the author Robert Greene. He calls it the dimensional mind.
Right.
And to explain this, the source points to Sherlock Holmes, specifically that Arthur Conan Doyle story, Silver Blaze.
Oh, I love this example. So in that story, a prized racehorse is stolen and its trainer is murdered in the dead of night.
Classic Holmes setup.
Classic. So the local police arrive and they do what any normal human brain does. They start cataloging all the positive data,
Like the muddy footprints, the murder weapon.
interviewing suspects, looking at everything tangibly present at the scene.
But Holmes ignores literally all of that. He solves the whole mystery by noticing a void. He realizes that during the midnight theft and murder, the family dog that was kept in the stables didn't bark.
And that absence of noise is the actual data,
Because if the dog didn't bark, the dog wasn't alarmed.
which means the intruder wasn't a stranger. The killer was someone the dog knew well. Holmes finds the murderer by focusing entirely on the negative space. Greene points out that a dimensional mind trains itself to stop fixating purely on the loud, visible information and starts questioning the silences.
And just to prove this isn't some neat trick for fictional detectives, the essay details this incredible true story about the biochemist Frederick Garland Hopkins.
Right, the scurvy research.
Yeah. So it's the early 20th century, and scurvy is just ravaging populations.
Yeah.
And the entire global medical establishment is operating on one massive assumption.
Which was germ theory.
Exactly. They assumed that if the body is sick, it means a foreign agent is attacking it. They were looking for a germ, a pathogen, a positive presence.
Which makes total sense for the time. Everyone was staring through microscopes looking for the bacteria causing scurvy.
But Hopkins flips the whole paradigm. He stops asking, what invisible thing is attacking the body? And he starts asking, what invisible thing might be missing from within?
He changes the question from what is present to what is absent.
And by doing that, he proves scurvy isn't an infection at all. It's a deficiency.
He discovers vitamins.
Yes, vitamin C specifically. Hopkins completely redefined human health just because he had the disciplined willingness to treat an absence as hard data.
It's brilliant, and the text even bridges this scientific concept over to philosophy. It brings in Leo Tolstoy's Calendar of Wisdom.
Oh yeah, the part about faith.
Right. Tolstoy writes about the evolution of personal faith, and he compares a rigid, unevolving belief system to a grandmother's fairy tales.
Which are super comforting when you're a kid.
Exactly. But if you try to carry those exact same simplistic tales into the messiness of adulthood, they shatter.
They just don't hold up.
No, they don't. Tolstoy argues that what is absent from an immature faith is the refinement and the deep simplicity that you can only get through aggressive, honest questioning.
So whether it's Holmes finding a killer or Hopkins finding vitamins or Tolstoy refining his worldview, it's the exact same mechanism.
It requires holding the void, the missing piece in your mind, just as clearly as the object right in front of you.
I got to push back on this, though.
Okay, go for it.
Because, practically speaking, as humans, we are biologically wired to look at the tiger running right at us, not the empty bush next to it.
Sure. Evolutionarily, we prioritize loud threats.
Right. So how does absence as data actually work for the listener on, like, a random Tuesday at the office?
What's fascinating here is that the environment you and the listener are navigating today is no longer a physical savanna. It is an environment of weaponized information overload.
Oh, man, that's the truth.
The tigers are now your flooded email inbox, the relentless Slack notifications, the social media algorithm.
It's the constant noise of society telling you what is urgent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your brain only reacts to what is loud and present, you will spend your entire life consumed by other people's priorities.
You just become a completely reactive organism,
Mm.
swatting at whatever is closest to your face.
Right. So true creative acts, whether you're trying to build a business or write a novel, require the disciplined willingness to quiet that immediate noise.
You have to step back.
You have to step back and ask, what is the question no one else in my industry is asking? What is missing from this conversation? That's the only way you carve out space for originality.
Okay, so we have our structure, our skeleton to keep us standing, and we're training our dimensional minds to look for the missing pieces. But discovering those hidden truths requires a massive amount of trial and error. It requires failing, which brings us right back to the heartbreak.
The 5 years in Los Angeles.
Exactly. How do you survive those inevitable rejections without letting the world sour your disposition?
Well, the essay leans on a very pragmatic aphorism from Josh Waitzkin. He's a chess prodigy and a martial arts champion.
Okay.
And his rule is respond to heartbreak with hard work.
Respond to heartbreak with hard work. I mean, that sounds pretty punishing.
It does, but if we map it back onto Pressfield's three-act structure, it makes a strange kind of sense.
Oh, let's hear it.
Act 1. One of your life's current pursuit is the heartbreak. It's the rejection. Moving to LA and being told no for 5 straight years.
Right.
Act 2 is the hard work. It's the relentless, unglamorous repetition of writing 9 screenplays in the dark when absolutely no one cares about your existence.
And Act 3.
Act 3 is the payoff. Not necessarily fame or wealth, but the deep internal mastery of your craft.
That's a great way to frame it. And to help us survive that grueling, lonely Act 2, the source material introduces this breathtaking visual metaphor from Tolstoy.
The pyramid.
The pyramid. He compares the education of mankind, like the slow progress of human evolution, to the building of an ancient pyramid. And the crucial mechanism of this metaphor is that pyramids take generations to build.
Right. No single human being ever finishes it.
Exactly. You don't lay the foundation, build the walls, and place the capstone all by yourself. You simply lay your one stone.
Which completely changes the psychological stakes. It removes that paralyzing pressure of needing to change the whole world by Friday.
Totally.
The essay actually pairs Tolstoy's philosophy with a very grounded directive from Ralph Mahn, who says, little and often over the long haul, go to class. Be a slave to good habits.
Be a slave to good habits. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
This brings up a glaring contradiction in the text, because the essay literally advises the reader to find success, set the bar low.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? How do you reconcile the ferocious, world-changing ambition required to build a pyramid with deliberately setting the bar low? That sounds like a recipe for, I don't know, participation trophies and a lifetime of mediocrity.
It sounds like a total contradiction.
Right, because if I want to be great, I need to be obsessed, not aiming for the floor.
Okay, but you have to examine the actual mechanics of habit formation.
Mm-hmm.
The bar they're talking about isn't your life's ultimate ceiling. It's not the capstone of the pyramid.
Okay.
The bar they're telling you to lower is for today.
Oh. Lower the friction for today's action.
Yes. The text is very blunt about reality. It says, today will not be perfect and nobody's going to get out of your way. If your daily requirement for success is writing a flawless masterpiece or closing a massive deal, your amygdala looks at that huge gap between where you are and where you want to be, and it triggers a fear response.
You just freeze.
You freeze. The world crushes your smile because you demand perfection immediately. But if you set the bar incredibly low, if your only goal today is to just open the laptop and type a single paragraph,
To just lay one imperfect stone.
exactly. You bypass the fear, you clear the bar, you get the dopamine hit of completion, and that momentum compounds.
So true humility is staying teachable and accepting your current limitations. You don't have to build the entire pyramid today. You just have to clear the exceptionally low bar of showing up.
Right. The ego demands massive leaps, which usually results in paralysis. Humility says, I'm going to lay this one tiny imperfect stone today, and that is enough.
Okay, but if we are laying stones every single day, little and often over the long haul, we have to make sure we are actually building the right thing. How do we filter out all the noise, the bad advice, and the toxic interactions that threaten our well-being along the way?
For that filtering mechanism, the source material turns to the Buddha.
Okay.
The essay outlines a ruthless, 3-part gate that you must pass your impulses through before you speak or take action. You have to ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind?
Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? I want you listening to really visualize this in your modern life. Imagine you are staring at your screen, drafting a highly passive-aggressive Slack message to a coworker who just threw you under the bus in a meeting.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Your pulse is up. Your ego is bruised. Now, pass that draft through the gates. Is it true? Maybe. Is it necessary? Probably not. It's just your ego wanting to strike back. Is it kind? Definitely not.
Not at all.
If every single daily impulse had to pass through those 3 gates, the ratio of meaningful action to absolute draining nonsense in our lives would shift drastically.
And this filtering process is directly tied to how we construct our own identity.
How so?
The essay brings in the writer Christina Baldwin. She observes that how we remember, what we remember, and why we remember actually forms the map of our individuality.
Because two people can endure the exact same heartbreak, but the map of who they become diverges entirely at the point of interpretation.
Yes.
One screenwriter gets a stack of rejection letters and remembers it as absolute humiliation, filtering it as proof they are worthless. Pressfield gets the same stack of rejections and filters it as an education.
It's all about the filter.
But I have to push back on this triple filter true, necessary kind.
Okay.
It sounds like a bouncer at a very exclusive nightclub, rejecting 90% of our human reactions. Doesn't living like that make your life incredibly restrictive? You're constantly policing your own thoughts.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think of that bouncer not as someone keeping you from having fun, but as a firewall keeping a virus out of your operating system.
Oh, interesting.
Every time you let an unnecessary or unkind impulse through, every time you send that passive-aggressive Slack message, you are spending your own highly limited mental bandwidth processing the drama and fallout it creates.
You're draining your own battery.
Exactly. The filter isn't restrictive, it's a bandwidth conservation tool. It is the armor for your smile. And this is where the essay introduces Simon Sinek's core philosophy.
The why.
Yes, Sinek says the how and the what are completely meaningless without the why.
The underlying purpose. The why sustains the how.
Right. The discipline of the 3X structure, the humility of setting the daily bar low, the rigorous filtering of your emails, none of that daily grind makes any sense unless you possess a deep conviction that the work is inherently worth doing.
Pressfield survived those 5 starving years because he fundamentally believed in the profound value of storytelling.
And Hopkins fought the entire medical establishment because he believed finding the biological truth mattered more than his reputation.
Tolstoy spent decades tearing down and refining his own faith because he believed that moving towards simplicity was the ultimate human calling.
The smile you are trying to protect from the world is not a mask of naivety.
No.
It isn't forced toxic positivity where you pretend everything is fine. The smile is the visible, outward expression of your core conviction. It's the armor that says, I know exactly why I'm laying the stone today, regardless of whether anyone else notices.
That reframing is incredibly powerful. Let's synthesize this journey we've been on for you listening. You start with this pure, innocent desire to change the world without letting the world change you. But the world will inevitably push back.
Always does.
It will try to crush your enthusiasm. And you don't survive that friction with sheer willpower. Instead, you build a structure, a skeleton, that gives your ambition a solid place to anchor itself. You train your dimensional mind to look for the missing data, the silences, to find your unique path. When you face the inevitable heartbreak of failure, you respond with hard work. You bypass your ego by setting the daily bar low enough that you can lay one imperfect stone at a time. You relentlessly filter your actions to conserve your energy. And your purpose, your deeply held why, is the battery that powers the entire system.
But the essay leaves us with one final, unavoidable call to action.
Which is?
Because all of these tools, the structure, the dimensional thinking, the patience of the pyramid, they are all just preparation. Eventually, you have to stop preparing and actually engage the world.
You have to step into the arena.
You do. The text includes an anonymous quote that sums this up perfectly. It says, you can never cross the ocean until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore.
You can't just study the ship. You have to actually sail.
Exactly. You have to eliminate your excuses and take radical personal responsibility. Because, as the text bluntly warns, later becomes never. You have to trust the 3-act structure even when it feels suffocating. You have to show up for class, and you have to remember that ultimately, without gratitude, there is no prosperity.
Which brings us right back to where we started. You stepping out your front door into the world today, but this time armed with a structural skeleton instead of just a fragile sentiment on a coffee mug.
It's a much better way to walk out the door.
It really is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on Tolstoy's beautiful metaphor of the multi-generational pyramid. If we are all just laying single stones on a structure that we will never live to see finished, perhaps the true value of your daily unglamorous discipline isn't the stone itself.
What is it then?
Perhaps the real value is the shadow that your stone casts, providing a tiny bit of shade for the person who comes tomorrow, trying to protect their own smile while they lay theirs.